Hey everybody, Quentin here with Mid-South Outdoor Life, coming to you from the flooded Mississippi River, where today I'm going to do a video for you all about my favorite installation tips for putting rod holders on a boat. Now in this case, we're going to be using the Steve Douglas monster rod holders. However, you could apply this information to any rod holders that utilize a separate mounting base, meaning not the clamp-on style so much, but if it comes with a separate mounting base that you permanently attach to your boat and then attach the rod holder to that, you could apply this information to it, and I believe that you'll find it helpful. So stick around to the end of the video to make sure that you don't miss anything, and I'll do my best to give you information that will be useful enough to improve your days out on the water. Now I suspect some people are going to be curious as to why I would do this installation video out on the water with the boat rocking around versus doing it at home where I have all my tools. And the answer is because for the most part, I'd pretty much always rather be on the water than on the land. And in these flood conditions where the Mississippi River is more than 30 feet higher than where I like, and in some places it's 3 miles wide where it should be a half mile wide, I don't really anticipate catching anything. But I wanted to be on the water, so grabbed a few tools, came on out, and I'm gonna mount some bases and give you a few tips. Tip number one involves hardware. No matter which bases or which rod holders you pick out, you're going to have to buy some additional hardware in order to mount the bases to your boat. Now you could go to the hardware store and you could buy the cheapest, that black finish steel bolt. It's really cheap. Put it on the boat thinking that black paint is going to work, and then in less than a year find out that it's starting to rust out on you and the bolt is rusting to the nut and you've made a mistake. You could buy galvanized. It's going to last a little bit longer. It's not going to look that great, and it's going to do the same thing ultimately. Stainless steel is the way to go. It's not that much more expensive. There are different grades of stainless steel. However, when I built this boat, going on 2 years ago now, I used stainless on every single fastener, and I also used locking nuts on every single fastener. The majority of the stainless did come from Lowe's. Every Lowe's is probably going to have the same brand, I would assume. But for this installation, just this WeatherMax stainless steel package. They're really inexpensive. This was like a $2 package. Same thing here, same brand, stainless steel nuts. These are the nylon lock nuts. So this tip is, guys, spend a little bit more on a fastener. Don't buy the cheapest nut and bolt. You're not talking about a huge difference in price, and when you want your boat to last 10, 20, 30 years, you know, why save a nickel on the bolts that are going to rust out on you and cause issues if you want to remove them later? Just go ahead and get the stainless steel. Tip number two involves this wing nut. These rod holders do not come with a wing nut. They come with just a standard stainless steel nut. I highly recommend that you consider replacing that nut with the largest wing nut that you can find. And the reason for that is, with this wing nut, you don't have to have a tool to tighten these down or loosen these up as long as you've got a fairly decent grip strength. And that way you can position the rod holder in any which way you want, or you can leave it loose, or you can lock it down. Now, this next tip is related to the last one in that it's got a lot to do with location. So, as you can see, there's 8 rod holders back here. Now, I've also got 2 at the front, but there's 8 back here. That's plenty of rod holders because most of the time I'm only running about 4 rods, sometimes up to 6. And the way I do this is, it's the same on both sides of the boat, but like on this side, this first one here, it's locked into place with that lock nut. The next one is always loose. I tighten it down when I'm driving down the road, but it pivots. I can just take it anywhere I want. The next one is locked down, that one pivots. Same thing over here, it's the same order. Loose, locked, loose, locked. These are locked for suspending. So if there's a lot of current pulling from one side to the other, the rod holder won't pivot. And the same thing off the back. I would use that to suspend a rod off the back. You know, I got a rod off the side, off the back, and then same thing over here, off the back, off the side. Those need to be locked down. But for versatility, the other ones, I like to leave those loose for different types of fishing and depending on what the boat positioning is. So on boat positioning, I've recently been doing a lot of spots where maybe I'll pull the boat up sideways to the bank instead of straight against the bank. So let's just imagine for a moment that this side of the boat was pushed up against a bank or some trees. And that would leave me with the back of the boat and the side of the boat to fish off of. Well, in some cases, maybe I want more than 3 rods off the side. What I've come up with is I don't really need more rod holders. What I need is more bases. So what this tip boils down to is buy more bases than rod holders. If I put rod holders in every single square inch that I could possibly fit them, then when I actually do catch a big fish and I want to bring it in, let's say for example, I need to bring the fish in right through this area here. And it's a big one. He weighs 50, 60 pounds. I'm using a big net that might have a 48-inch net in it. And I've got to lift that big fish up over the railing in that net and get it on the boat. If I had this space filled with a rod holder, that would be a little bit more cumbersome. However, if I just put a base here and here and here, that gives me the option of having the rod holder there if I really need it, but it's not always going to be there to be an obstruction. So I'm about ready to get the drill out and mount these new bases, but before I do, I'm going to pull these lines up, I'm going to fire up the motor, and I'm going to run down the river and try to find a place where I can actually beach the boat so it won't be rocking around before I start drilling. I'll see you there. Okay, so I'm suspecting that you are going to really quickly notice that I'm no longer on the river. I am actually underneath the shelter where I keep my boat. It's been 3 days since I started this video, I think. Maybe 4 days since I started this video. I had intended to do the whole thing out there on the water. I thought it'd be cool, you know, work on the boat while you're fishing, that sort of thing. But things came up. Within minutes of the last time I had the camera on, I actually came across a father and son who are out on the river for their second time ever on the Mississippi River. And it was a new boat to them, and they had lower unit trouble. They were under the impression that they were going to be able to troll all the way to the boat ramp because we were upriver from the ramp. But we were 12 miles away. They were in a backwater situation where it's not just a straight current. It was a little awkward. I had to be a little pushy in order to get them to let me tow them. But I've been out there enough to know that that was the right thing to do. The Mississippi River it's a different world, and I know that if you're too close to the end of a wing dike or some of the backwater eddies, or even out in the middle of the current, certain boils, when the Mississippi River wants to keep you, that's what it does. And you know, if you don't have your outboard. So anyway, I didn't spend the rest of the day working on these bases and fishing and doing the video. I did a towboat mission, and I think it was the right thing to do. And now here I am. I'm going to put these bases on here, and we'll conclude the video just by kind of recapping my favorite tips for the monster rod holder bases, or any rod holder bases.
Stainless steel nylon lock nut. Don't be a tightwad.
Check it out, folks. In just a few minutes time, I've added 3 more bases to this side and 3 more bases to that side. Bam, just like that. In less than 20 seconds time, I've grabbed 2 of my loose rod holders and installed them on that side of the boat, vastly improving the fishability of that side of the boat. And as you can see, there's still 1 open base. If I wanted, for example, that loose rod holder right here, I'd just take it right there, and we'd be fishing like crazy on that side of the boat. Yet they're not there all the time to be in the way of the net all the time. And in fact, because at least 2 of those are going to be loose anytime they're over there, I could spin them out of there real quick, even with a fishing rod in my hand, to get ready to do some net work on a big trophy catfish. Alright folks, it's time to recap my favorite tips for installing rod holders on a boat. And it goes like this in no particular order. Location, location, location. When you're picking out the locations for the rod holders on your boat, don't drill holes until you've thoroughly investigated this rod holder in all different positions. Put the rod in there, spin it around, get an extra person to help hold you if you want to. Stand on that boat and imagine yourself out on the water on a day of fishing in any which way you might want to configure this before you drill holes in your boat. When it's time to drill those holes in your boat, you're going to need some fasteners. Don't skimp on your fasteners. Don't buy the cheap black ones. Don't buy the galvanized ones. Look through that hardware section. Find the stainless steel ones. The stainless steel's not that much more, and it'll last a lifetime. The nuts. Get nylon lock nuts. Spend the extra nickel on the nuts. It's well worth it. They won't rattle loose on you. Also on the fasteners. These lock nuts that'll come with your rod holders, get rid of them and replace them with stainless steel wing nuts so that you can work them without a tool or even just with a pair of pliers if you really want to lock them down firm. As far as your quantities, no matter how many rod holders you buy, get more bases than rod holders. If you're buying 10, maybe consider getting 4 more rod holders. You know, somewhere in the 25 to 30%, maybe 40% more bases than rod holders. They don't cost that much, and I promise you, after a few trips on the water, you'll find some places on your boat where you would like to be able to temporarily stick some of those rod holders. So give it a shot. Guys, I hope you found this video to be informative and at least somewhat useful, or maybe even mildly entertaining. If so, hit that subscribe button below the screen. I would really appreciate it. I upload pretty often, and all my content has to do with an active and outdoor lifestyle. For example, one of my next videos is going to be a video on that net that you see behind me, that giant HD monster rod holder net. I don't know about you, but my money doesn't grow on trees. And when I was looking to buy a really nice high-end net, it was kind of hard for me to plop down the cash on one that I'd never seen and touched. So I've got a video coming up that's going to help you to understand the difference between some of the nets that we see in our big box stores for like 30 or 40 bucks and a net like that. Thanks for watching.